Recording in progress.
Stay within this task force.
Chip Mary, no, we haven't met.
We don't get any.
Mary, oh, there she is. Okay, 4 o'clock. Just gonna bring up my backups. That's part. Oh, so bad. I'm glad it worked out.
No, thank you so much. I should have brought my little.
Okay. Can we get started?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Today's Wednesday, October 23rd. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mary Hogue, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item number 3, resignation from the Conservation Commission. Jerry Alessi, Republican, 582 Shrub Oak Lane, term 11/20 to 11/25, resigned on October 11th, 2024. And I'd like to thank Jerry for his dedication to the town over many years and for his service. He just got too busy, was traveling quite a lot. So we will be filling that vacancy on the Conservation Commission. So item number 4 is an appointment. The Employees Retirement Board. This requires RTM approval. Motion to hear this, the appointment of George Please, Republican, 96 Rock Major Road, term 11/20 to 11/25 to replace Kevin Surgeon, who Republican, who resigned. Thank you, Kevin, for your years of service. And again, Kevin got very, very busy and wasn't able to continue, but thank you for your service, Kevin. Would you like to make a motion? Seconded. So George is here. George, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Good afternoon. I've been a resident of Fairfield for 40 years. Have worked in New York in the financial arena for 45 years. I am recently retired, as in 2 months ago, and now I'm looking for an opportunity to help and serve the town. My wife's on the Wakeman board, and I'm working with her in that capacity. And I've held several jobs in the financial arena, CFO and controller of some large companies, and also have been on the board for investment committees and pension committees of those companies for the last 10 years. So I look forward to the opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you, George. And the Blees family is quite famous in Fairfield for the amount of public service that you do. And I did talk to Ken Brackfeld on the pension board, and he said he's excited about you joining. He will not hold the fact that you went to Wharton against you. You went to Wharton as well. And I should mention that George was on the only Final Four University of Pennsylvania basketball ever. so, motion to approve.
Just want to thank.
Public comment. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Christine. Go ahead.
No, I just think this is thank you for stepping up to serve. We're lucky that your retirement coincided with an opening on this board. I think your background will be a perfect fit, and looking forward to just the contributions you'll make. So happy to approve. Back to you, Mr. First Selectman.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, George. Thanks for stepping up. So item number 5, Sustainable Fairfield Task Force, recognition of President's Volunteer Service Award recipients for their impactful service to the town of Fairfield through contributions on sustainability. And I'd like to ask Rabab if you would say a few words and make the presentation. I'll make the
if you would.
Oh, should I come up with you right now? Okay.
In July of 2024, Sustainable Fairfield was approved as an official certifying organization for the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. And as a result, we were able to start recognizing our volunteers based on the hours of service with the appropriate level of recognition. Inspiration is contagious, which is why Sustainable Fairfield's role as a certifying organization is so important. And the Presidential Volunteer Service Award honors individuals whose service positively impacts communities in every corner of the nation and inspires those around them to take action too. This year, we have 6 individuals who have qualified through their service and efforts at Sustainable Fairfield to receive the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. We will start with Sustainable Fairfield Chair, Bob Wall. Role as one of the founders and the current chair of Sustainable Fairfield, in addition to chairing the Energy and Built Committee, Bob Wall has diligently contributed to all things sustainability for over 2 decades now. And this year in particular, though, from educating citizens about the successful Heat Smart program to spearheading the town's efforts to earn a gold certification from Sustainable Fairfield, we are very grateful for Bob's service and commitment to all his efforts on Sustainable Fairfield, and congratulate him on receiving the gold designation, which is the highest that you can for his service.
Yeah, here you go.
Write down.
Congratulations, Bob. Thanks for everything you did. Thank you.
Our next recipient is Sustainable Fairfield member Mary Hogue. Mary Hogue is synonymous with sustainability, and Sustainable Fairfield would not be where it is without her dedication and tireless efforts to organize us at every meeting, event, and on numerous initiatives. She is the chair of the Natural Environment Committee and took over, and this is one of the things I could go on, we could be here forever, and took over in overseeing the town's updated sustainability plan for 2024. And this was in addition to organizing the Earth Day event, aiding the green teams at the Fairfield Public Schools, and working on Fairfield's Sustainable CT certification. Again, I could go on and on. I feel ridiculous even trying to summarize what this woman does. We are so appreciative of Mary's efforts and congratulate her on receiving the gold designation for her service as well. And she's now on the Charter Revision Commission.
Thank you.
So our next recipient is Sustainable Fairfield member James Marin. If Sustainable Fairfield is out there as a known entity to the town citizens, you can be sure it's because of Jim Marin's mastery of communications and outreach, which has put our organization on everyone's radars. His stellar work on Sustainable Fairfield's newsletter, along with all of our communications directives, ensures that Fairfielders are always in the know and up to date on all things sustainability. We are so very grateful for his hard work and commitment and congratulate him on receiving the Adult Silver designation for his service. Our fourth recipient is Sustainable Fairfield member Becky Bunnell. She could not be here, unfortunately. She is home resting after a procedure. And so I did just want to say, if you don't already know, Becky has been a stalwart in like her role as chair of the Food and Waste Committee and a Sustainable Fairfields liaison for flood and erosion, from developing programs that allow town residents to learn how to compost and recycle, to helping Fairfielders understand the various sustainable and natural food options in the area, to educating and advocating to ensure the safety for years to come of our coastal town. Becky is a wealth of knowledge on all matters as they relate to living sustainably, and really an inspiration to us all. And we're bummed she couldn't be here tonight, but we do thank Becky for her expertise and dedication, and congratulate her also on receiving the silver designation for her service as well. So our fifth recipient is Sustainable Fairfield intern and senior at the Fairfield Ludlow High School, Asad Sayed. The infusion of the next generation in local efforts to fight for the health and betterment of our planet, which they are inheriting, is one of the most vital goals of Sustainable Fairfield. And we certainly are very lucky with Asad Sayed embodying the role of just that kind of exciting youth leader. From his innovative outreach and climate advocacy work as president of Sustainable Fairfield's youth offshoot, Sustainable Fairfield Students, to introducing composting as a student to Fairfield Ludlow High School in his role as president of the Eco Club, and volunteering as an intern and contributing to the submission of Sustainable CT certification. We are thrilled for Asad's efforts and commitment, and congratulate you, Asad, on receiving the Silver Youth designation. And finally, she is up on Zoom right there. Shreya Mothakuri is a freshman at UConn, and she's there, so she couldn't be with us here today. Thanks, Shreya. So nice to see you on here. Continuing our pride at the dedication shown by Sustainable Fairfield's youth volunteers, Shreya Mothakuri's advocacy and commitment to our environment is nothing short of exceptional. From organizing bottle drives in her leadership role at Sustainable Ward to testifying in support of climate initiatives up in Hartford, and working as a diligent intern with Sustainable Fairfield on Sustainable CT's certification, we are so appreciative of Shreya's support and congratulate her on receiving the silver designation for her service. We thank all of our esteemed volunteers for their commitment and dedication to making the town of Fairfield more sustainable for all, becoming a part of the legacy of driving real, positive, and sustained change in communities across America. And we thank the Board of Selectmen and the first Selectman here, Selectman Vitale, for recognizing their wonderful efforts. Becky's here.
Becky.
Yay, Becky. Congratulations.
I compost at home because of that. But can I just make one additional comment?
Please.
So every once in a while, I'm out and about in town, and I see somebody working hard on her computer at maybe at Las Vegas Lounge or somewhere else. And Rabab is just a gift to Fairfield. You just work tirelessly. You treat this like a full-time job, I think. So thank you for your efforts, and you've really helped push, our understanding of what's possible. You've helped communicate it to the town. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Congrats. Yeah. No, I'm in the other chair. Do you want to sit up here?
Congratulations, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Thank you, Joyce. Good luck.
Scott is here. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Town librarian, item number 6. To hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Shutterstock for access and licensing for images used in library marketing materials. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. So yeah, we'll take these one at a time if that's okay.
So moved.
Okay. Scott,
Yes.
on Shutterstock.
Shutterstock is just access and licensing for images used for library marketing and materials.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Any comments from the board?
No?
Comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. B, to hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and BookPage for a recommendation guide for patrons to read reviews and listings of new books. This is both for print copies and digital distribution. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Scott?
We actually don't need to approve this. This was approved in the past. So that one's good,
It was approved,
even this summer.
so I wonder how it made its way.
I don't know, I think your memo is different than my memo, but
Okay, so this was approved, so I guess, should I make a motion to strike this from the agenda? As it was already approved during the summer, although I don't recall it because it was one of about 10,000 things. Christine, do you have an opinion on that?
If we've already approved it, you can
We can just,
withdraw your motion and just not take action on it.
yeah, so I'll withdraw my motion, not take action. All in favor, say aye. Withdraw the motion. Okay, item number C, to hear, consider, and act on agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and No B4 for security awareness training. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Scott?
this is just a security training module that our staff use. It's diamond level, so it's high level, because we both see it as keeping our staff well trained in regards to this, for both as an internal organization and also for those of us who are doing digital literacy classes for them.
So this is for the whole town, right?
This is just for our staff.
Just for the
Our
library
staff
staff?
regularly do this, but this does inform us when we're doing that instruction.
Okay, thank you. So we're all familiar with No Before, if you work here. So any comments from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Okay, approved. Item D, to hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Emergence Red Hat Enterprises Linux license for server operating system licenses needed for easy proxy authentication. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Scott?
This is just the server operating system licenses that needed for authentication. So when you're signing into something at the library, one of our multiple digital platforms, they all check each other and everything looks okay.
Thank you. Any comments from the board, questions?
Nope.
Seeing none, public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, approved. E, to hear, consider, and act on agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Rotunda's Software Volunteer Scheduler Pro for scheduling program for library volunteers and teen volunteers. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Scott?
This is a scheduling program for library volunteers and teen volunteers. It helps us manage and schedule that.
So is this scheduling program unique to libraries?
No, but since we have such a robust program, it's easier for us to have an in-house software.
Right. I think we have other in-house softwares in other groups. I've always wondered what the differences were, but I guess that's not up to you to. So, any comments from the public? From Christine, any comments or questions?
You're currently using this?
We are currently using this, yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye. Motion is passed. Item F, to hear, consider, and act on agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Library Solutions for software for an online calendar and registration system. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded? Pretty self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory.
Any questions or comments from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, approved. G, to hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Fairfield Public Library and Policy Map, Inc. for interactive mapping software that highlights demographics using library data, which will be used for the next strategic plan. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded, Scott.
This is a really great tool that helps us kind of understand the demographics of who has library cards, where, what their income range is, gender, race, using our data to make comparisons. So this will really help us making our strategic plan, understanding how we can create more card saturation, higher usage, hours for both the main library and the branch library, and why we're seeing some of the trends that we're seeing. And we're hoping that maybe some of the other departments in the town will also be able to use this software to kind of look at some of the other problem things.
Yeah, that was my question. You just answered that. I was going to ask, could it be used for other planning purposes?
Absolutely, and I've already talked to some department heads, or at least one, about the possible use of this. I've used a similar software in a previous municipality I worked at, which it was incredible to use. It really helped us create a story and help understand usage and demographics a little bit better.
So this is data taken from public information?
Primarily from the census, but also plugged in from other areas, including some marketing. So you really get a good idea of really, kind of the types of households that have library cards and the types of households that don't have library cards, which is probably what our biggest interest is.
But for like other departments, they could do the same type of work for the households that use the town gym or this. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions or comments, Christine?
Would it delve even deeper? How many people have library cards and do they have books or electronic books?
Well, we can already pull some of that information, and we do some of that reporting, which we'll be sharing next month for our board and also for you all who get the packet every month. But what it really does is it takes that information and then lets us know what areas of town, because it's a mapping software. So really, we can make guesstimates to who uses what tools and why, but this really kind of really tightens it down so we have a better idea. It'll also let us know what neighborhoods from local surrounding municipalities are using our library. That often comes up because state regulations allow that. So it gives us just a better idea of who's using us, why they're using us, and really kind of just their demographics, their educational background, race, beliefs, things of that, religious beliefs, anything that you would fill out in the census, you would get from this mapping software.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing, the reports that come out of this.
Any comments from the public? I don't think there's. Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I can't hear.
Do you need me here for the ARPA discussion?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind.
Just means my son gets the fish longer, so.
Sorry, what?
Just means my son gets the fish longer.
Oh, good. Yeah, maybe I'll catch enough for dinner. Item 7, purchasing authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into proposed multi-year agreement between the town and American Total Protection LLC of Hamden, Connecticut, to provide fire alarm and security alarm repair, monitoring and testing services, and all else necessary per town of Fairfield bid number 2025-03 in the American Total Protection proposal dated September 24th, 2024. Funding for this contract is available on account 010-050-30-53200, fees and professional services. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Adam, are you going to take this?
Yes, hi, this is Adam Tulin, Director of Purchasing. This is a pretty straightforward service agreement we've put together. We went out to bid for James Ryan here. We got a fantastic response. We actually received 7 bids. We ended up having to reject 1, so we ended up with 6 responsible bidders. American Total Protection was the all-around. It's a little complex because there's a bunch of different locations and pricing, but overall, American Total Protection was the low bid, and James Ryan was happy to proceed with them. So I'm not sure if he's there. I can't see if there's any questions about it, but this is a pretty straightforward service agreement.
Yeah, and so it's a multi-year contract. I forget how many years it is in the backup, but and I am curious. So the reason this would not be renewable on similar terms and conditions is you would prefer to go out with bid when every X number of years.
So within the contract, we have it's a base term of 1 year with optional. How do I word this? With up to 4, with up to 4 optional extensions already built into it. So, I mean, I could start adding that language onto contracts like this in the resolution if you'd like, but I didn't think it was necessary in this because it's already built into the contract.
It's already built in. Okay. Yep. Cool. Thank you. Any questions, Christine, or comments?
Nope, pretty straightforward.
Okay, from the public, seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Adam. Item number 8, Adam again. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement between the town of Fairfield and Kelowna Concrete and Asphalt Paving, LLC of Woodbridge, Connecticut, to provide labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary for the East Trunk Sewer Line Replacement Project, Phase 1 and Phase 2, per town of Fairfield bid 2024-58 and the Kelowna Concrete proposal dated June 20th, 2024 for a base contract amount of $24,745,350 with additional authority to enter into necessary change orders in an amount not to exceed 10% of the original contract value. Funding for this contract is available in account 264-13010-57150, East Trunk Sewer Replacement. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Adam, do you want to take this?
Yep, I'll start. Again, Adam Tooland, Director of Purchasing. This project has been through all the boards for varying reasons at varying times. This is finally it. We finally have the contract ready to go. We utilized an EJCDC standard agreement, which is a pretty universally accepted engineering contract document. I'm actually, just a side note, I'm excited. The engineering department purchased a license, so we will be able to use that for a number of other contracts moving forward. It's got great legal precedent, a lot of protections, and a lot of ability to customize things as we need. So that was a great step forward for us in contracting. So just, I'm not sure if there's any questions about the project at this point, but I feel comfortable with this contract we've put together, and we're here to get your approval for it.
Yeah, and I would just add, like you said, this East Trunk, for a number of reasons, has been before the board many times. It's been before all the boards. We've discussed it, and this is just signing the contract that we had already sort of had to go out and recently get more money for the fact that the bids came in higher than expected. So this recently came before the boards. So this is actually finally signing the contract so they can start the work. Any questions, Christine, or comments?
No, we've talked about this project at length, and it's exciting to see it actually moving forward with having this bid awarded. So happy to look forward to a vote.
We said many times that this pipe is crucial for the east side of town to be able to have a functioning sewer system in the future. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That is a big step. Item number 9, Community and Economic Development Director and Affordable Housing Committee. This requires the RTM approval to hear, consider, and act on a request from the Affordable Housing Committee and the Director of Community and Economic Development for the town of Fairfield to purchase 254 Green Street, Fairfield, as more particularly set forth in the contract of sale, and to authorize an allocation of funds from the American Rescue Plan Act to cover all costs associated with said purchase, or if the funds from the ARPA prove insufficient for said purchase, any additional funds required for the purchase are hereby authorized to be spent from the Housing Trust Fund. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Mark.
Good afternoon, Mark Barnhart, Director of Community Economic Development. As you'll recall, we purchased property at 244 Greenfield Street some years ago. We're working currently with Habitat for Humanity under a development agreement to two new duplexes there to provide 4 units of affordable homeownership housing, which is down the street from our town-owned owner-built housing development as well that provides affordable homeownership housing as well. So the area, we currently have some interest in this. We've owned the property immediately to the rear. So the opportunity arose to purchase this property. The parcel is a small lot, regularly shaped, as you can see, within the Residence B zone. It's improved with a single family home, 2-bedroom, rental investment property. We're proposing to add this to the property to the rear that the town already owns, allow for an expansion of our working relationship with Habitat to create some additional units for affordable homeownership there. We did review this with the Affordable Housing Committee at their meeting of October 9th. They recommend the purchase. It is consistent with the appraised value of the property as well as on a comparable basis to the price that we paid for the adjoining lot, which was slightly smaller. So at this time, I'm happy to take any questions, but in the event that I know there's another piece that's going to ARPA or proposing to use ARPA dollars, which does require Board of Finance and RTM approval, but in the event that doesn't approve, we do have funds within the Housing Trust Fund to cover the purchase costs. So.
Any questions or comments, Christine?
No, just happy to see us continuing our relationship with Habitat. Exciting to see the homes that have already are moving forward. I haven't been down that street. I'll have to take a drive by to see how they're progressing.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
And just thank you for your continued leadership on this, and looking forward to supporting and hoping that our residents, when it comes down to start construction, that they will be looking for volunteer opportunities.
Yeah, agreed. All set, Christine?
Yep, all set.
Yeah, no, I agree with Christine, and thank you for your leadership on this. It's, a group of people on the RTM came to talk to me, and we had a lot sort of money that could not be used for one project because of approvals hadn't come in on time, and they were concerned that there are certain things that we should be focused on, including affordable ways to increase affordable housing. For many of those projects, there's not really a role for the towns. I'm telling you, you're nodding your head, but I'm saying this for the public's benefit, not yours. Mark, you're the one who taught me many of these things, and so there's not really a big role that the town can play when developers come in. We can encourage certain things and do certain things, but this is one of the few ways to help foster home ownership, because so quite often it's rental apartments in larger units, and I think this is a very nice model. It's sort of an add-on to the other affordable units that come in as rentals, and it's just a really nice thing to do. And I know that many people in the RTM support this because they were asking for more of this. So and that I know these opportunities come by you pretty rarely, right? But as they do, thank you for taking advantage of them. Any comments from the public? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mark. And the next, okay. Wait, hold on. I just,
Number 10.
yeah, I'm just, where is the library?
It's part of ARPA?
Oh, okay, oh, right, it's just not spelled out in the resolution, yeah, okay. So, item number 10, I'm gonna do this, the interim CFO couldn't be here. This requires Board of Finance and RTM approval to hear, consider, and act upon a reallocation of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds per Exhibit A attached in the backup. So, as part of this, we have an additional project, and the bids are in the, the invoices or bids, I guess we should call it, until they're approved, are in the backup material for the library pavilion out in front. So Scott is going to tell us about that project, which he has raised many, many months ago.
So what this would do was would repair and create additional space for outside seating at the main library, 1080 Old Post Road. This is the patio, which is part of the side entrance. It would actually create more space by removing some trees and shrubbery, adding some brickwork, replacing some of the seating that's already there and adding some additional seating, actually table seating. We are kind of following the trend of what other libraries have done across the country with ARPA money, which is expand outdoor space for programming and also just additional library use. This kind of came to me while we were doing Make Music Day. That's become a popular stage for that annual celebration, and this would help with the layout. We also envision doing additional programming out there, and it would also help with to release one outdoor book sale. It is a popular space in town when the library is open and the library is closed. It would also help when it comes to people who want to eat at the library. While we invite coverage drinks, we ask for people not to bring their lunches, and we often ask them to go outside when they do bring a lunch. This would create seating there as well that people could use and also do work outside. We have a significant amount of people who come with their laptops and use their work from home or their schoolwork or studying, and this would create space outside for them to do that as well.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, so it's this item, the total amount for both renovation of the patio, and removing some of the removing the tree and some of the shrubs, and also replacing the decking, and then the second part would be putting outdoor furniture there for people to congregate. The total is $35,184.33, and that will come out of ARPA. So between the 340,000 and the 35,184.33, if those if the second is approved, we just approved the 340,000 for Greenfield Street. The remaining unallocated dollars in ARPA are $706,194.26, and there will be additional proposals for use of that amount coming forward within the next month. Has to be encumbered before the end of year end. Any questions from the board, Christine?
When I hear just removal of trees, I always just get worried, working with the tree warden. And I know that there were trees removed downtown for other developments. So I would just not stand in the way, but just ask that you work with the appropriate people on that.
Yes, and we,
For our green space downtown. I think this is a wonderful addition to the library. Just in getting more people to congregate outdoors in our downtown area just improves the quality of life down there. A nice break to have people eat and congregate and use the library resources. So happy to support this. That's just my one ask, just moving forward, to be sensitive to that.
You have started that discussion.
yeah, it's a limited amount of like shrubbery that will be.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Excellent. So any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. So your son is going to have to stop his fishing there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Take care. Item 11, Human Resources Director. To hear, consider, and act on approving a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, between the town of Trumbull and the town of Fairfield for two towns to share the services of the Fairfield tax assessor. The term of the MOU is from execution by the parties until April 30th, 2025, unless earlier terminated. May I have a motion? Seconded. So would you like to explain the agreement?
Certainly. It's Kathleen Simpson, Director of Human Resources, and we had a request actually from our fellow town of Trumbull for some help in their office. And in the spirit of working together and having known in some occasions where we need a similar ask, we thought it would be a good idea to try to help the town of Trumbull if we can. And our tax assessor was willing to try to work together with this MOU. And basically, the MOU is a period of very restrictions of only 8 hours a week. It can be terminated by the town of Fairfield at any time. The understanding is that the tax assessor duties on Fairfield are priority, and that anything in Trumbull do not supersede. There's waiver of liability for anything that the town of Trumbull, when our tax assessor is there, should occur. We have also we agreed that Trumbull would reimburse Fairfield $135 per hour, which kind of factors in the hourly rate, and fringe for having to pay for the time that our tax assessor would be there. And it's anything that basically that it's not again, it can be terminated at any time or reduced, and the parties have to make it very clear what the schedule is. So this was an agreement that we thought, again, to help another town. And if we're in the same situation, it would be, hopefully we would get some sort of reciprocity.
Yeah, and I remember when this first came up, and I was asking around whether this is, common, uncommon, or kind of common. I've heard several instances of deals like this being arranged in other departments, and even in the tax assessors, I believe. So it's not uncommon, and I think the issue, as I understand it from talking to the first Selectwoman in Trumbull, is they have been having trouble hiring somebody. They have staff, but not sort of leadership of the caliber that they need, like, for some direction for the staff. And they may have hired someone that didn't work out, and so they were really in a pickle right now, and they're just asking for our help. And I think that's the kind of thing that, if you can do it, it's really great because you'll get that back at some point. Any questions?
I am all for being a good neighbor, and it would be nice just to know that if we approve this, that if we are ever in a bind, that we could turn to Trumbull potentially for help. But I will admit that I just do have concerns about the time spent away from Fairfield. Any consideration just in terms of staffing? I know that we can end at any time. Would the scheduling be week for week? We have the reeval coming up. Just can we spare having our tax assessor out of the office potentially 8 hours during the week?
That's an excellent point, and that was one that we discussed with the first selectman, and we discussed with Ross at length about that concern. And the tax assessor assured us, and I know that I'm responsible enough to know that if there's something that Fairfield's a priority, and if something should occur, those hours not be reduced or may not be worked at all. So the schedule will be, I think one of the terms in there that will be between the town and Fairfield will be put in writing, but any kind of changes, it could be immediate. And I know that the tax assessor is extremely responsible and and also as well concerned about Fairfield as the first and foremost priority. So that is a very good point. But
my understanding is, Mr. Ross, you live in Trumbull. So this would be most likely something at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. So you're not traveling, you're not wasting traveling time, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the thought is either 4 hours in the morning or 4 hours in the afternoon.
So you're thinking doing it all like within, it's not like 2 hours a week, or wait, how many, 8 hours a week is that at the most? Okay, so would it be a little bit every day, or depending on,
Yeah, my thought would be, it would be 2 half days a week, so, a morning or an afternoon in Trumbull and then the rest of the day in Fairfield. So, I'd be in the office every day of the week still. It would just be, an afternoon or a morning that I'd be out.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that a person in your position at your level, typically you do what you need to do to get your job done. So it's not like you're not going to get your job done because the day is done and I'm going to go home kind of thing. So it just is really more that you're helping out.
I would also add that because Ross is an exempt employee and not a manager employee, that he's not married. It's not 8 hours is not the day.
That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
The tax assessor is responsible to get the work done, no matter if it, however it takes in a week or, so if it takes 60 hours, you get paid. The only thing we don't make sure Trumbull knows, when you have our tax assessor, you're gonna have to pay for that time. So, yeah, and I know works with Ross that he usually does not leave exactly at 4:30, and he's here late evenings and works pretty diligently above and beyond the hours that of 35.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, I when I first heard about this, I was thinking, a lot of people do have side gigs. I don't know, some contracts prohibit having a side gig, but if you were to go home at night and do that would be none of our business. But where they're asking you to be there for some hours when people are there,
So I can engage with the staff.
you can engage with the staff. So it's not going to preclude you from, working your 8 hour, those 8 hours also in addition here. So and knowing you, I know it's not going to have an impact on the quality. So.
I'll reiterate what Kathleen said is, I've made it clear to Trumbull that, Fairfield's a priority. If it, comes too much, then, it's gonna end. And we're fully staffed in my office here in Fairfield. We've first time in a long time, so we've got a good group over there now, and well,
Just think some special incentive program to get people to go into this profession. It sounds like there are not a lot of. It's pretty sought after. Any comments or questions, Christine? Are you okay or?
No, I'm okay. Thank you for that additional reassurance and that there will be just oversight. I just wanted to share my concerns. So moving forward, you know, everybody knows where I am on this. And you know, hopefully Trumbull will get properly staffed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but if not, this will end, and you know it's really up to them. Okay. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Seeing none.
I just need to look at that.
Did you see any comments?
Well, I don't have any on my computer, but let me just.
Yeah, why don't you check, because we do have a member of the public on. See anything? If there's a member of from the public that wishes to speak, you can unmute.
There's nothing in the chat.
Okay. Then back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Ross.
thank you.
So this would still be Kathleen Simpson, Human Resources Director, to hear, consider, and act upon an agreement for legal services between the town of Fairfield and Robinson and Cole LLP. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Interesting outside counsel to handle some of our higher level sensitive investigations that because of conflicts or with our office that we need to have outsource it to an attorney to do investigations. And we've been using Robin Taylor quite extensively, and she's pretty booked right now with investigations. So we want to we need to get another investigator. And we did some research, Phil and I did years, and we found Rachel Cashel from Robinson and Cole, and to do some of this work for town of Fairfield. One of the agreements, it does seem costly at $620, but she's agreed to reduce her rates, which will bring her down in around the $400 an hour. And she also agreed to use associates when to handle the work. And I can just tell you, and I can't get into details, but the investigations are going to be extremely complicated. So I don't expect this to be a big price tag, you know, for many, many, many hours. So this is one other option because of the need to have another attorney to investigate some of our current complaints.
Yeah, and I think in general, this whole kind of external investigations, this idea, this procedure started, you know, with some of the complaints about, you know, having certain sensitive things being investigated internally, and whether or not conflicts could arise from that. This takes it out of our hands, so that there's no appearance of conflict, and we don't want there to be even an appearance, even though there might not be. So these are very professional people, and you know they can follow their professional guidelines. You know,
One of the things that, since I became the HR director, we do investigate complaints and we take it very seriously, and we don't want to do it thoroughly and fairly. And because of the nature of what we do, at times we become witnesses, myself or my staff. So that also takes us out of the ability to investigate. So that was another consideration.
Any questions, Christine?
I do think it is good to have an outside resource just to keep everything, just no questions about impropriety. When we were working with outside counsel on these investigations, what type of oversight do you have, or in terms of timing? You know, there's an investigation, do you just let it play out for however long it takes, or do you try to set some sort of parameters in terms of, we really want to get this wrapped up in a certain time frame?
That's a good question. We do try to set parameters, and usually I like to say, hey, try to get this done in 90 days, which is sometimes a big ask, depending upon the number of witnesses or information that has to be called through, and availability also of witnesses. So, and there is oversight either by usually with myself, unless I'm a witness, then I don't get it. But by legal counsel, our town attorney, Phil Pierce, will periodically make sure we're on track. And if there's any concerns that's holding it up, obstacles, we do require, that information, so we know, and hopefully can assist to get that obstacle, moved to go along. But often these things take at least 90 days to get done, just from my experience and from the nature of the type of work. And it's just mostly, a lot of it is the details and getting, again, the timing and having to get, and a lot of it is the witnesses.
Okay.
That's helpful.
No, thank you. And I appreciate that, given it's sensitive, so I don't want to go, too far down a rabbit hole with this, but for those, and I'm not privy to any, investigations that may or may not be going on, but I would just imagine if somebody put something forward, that they would want to know that it is being addressed. And the longer the amount of time that goes by, people might just think that it isn't being addressed. So I do appreciate you just giving a little more detail into the process and the time that is needed to conduct these investigations, and then many moving parts and getting witnesses, and it's just a time-consuming process.
Yeah, but I also would say too, the fact that, again, you want to do it as quickly as you can, obviously, thoroughly, but also, we also understand too, whoever is being investigated, they need to get it shored up as well. And that's important too, so.
Both sides of it. Expediency, I think, is probably, thoroughness and expediency. It's often a desired combination, but very often difficult to achieve both at the same time for a myriad of factors. So thank you for the additional detail and for working with the town attorney to identify this firm.
Any comments from the public? None. Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 13, engineering manager. This requires Board of Finance and RTM approval. Anthony, to hear, consider, and adopt a bond resolution amending and restating a resolution entitled a resolution appropriating $3,240,000 for the costs of certain non-recurring capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, to increase the appropriation and bond authorization to the Southport Sidewalk Connectivity Project by $600,000 for a total appropriation and bond authorization under the resolution of $3,840,000. See full resolution in backup. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Anthony, good to see you.
All right, so our Southport connectivity project will take. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
my apologies. It'll take place on Route 1 in Southport from Halls Highway to Pease Avenue, and basically it'll include new sidewalks, curbs, as well as pedestrian signals, relocated traffic equipment, as well as traffic calming bulb outs and ADA compliant curbs. There is already some sidewalk there, but the purpose of this project is to essentially bridge the gap between the areas of sidewalk that are there, and some sidewalks that may be a little too narrow or being less than sidewalk in that section there.
So my understanding, this was approved, the original approval was a couple of years ago, right? And there was, it was held up by the DOT.
I don't know about the DOT.
Yeah, can you just explain that for the public's purposes? Yeah.
Sure. They had a few issues regarding some of the structural equipment on the traffic signals, particularly along the intersection of Halls Highway. So a lot of going back and forth about that. So we had to change the scope of the project slightly to include some of the updates to essentially bring them to their standards.
And that delay is a big part of, I would assume, the increase in.
Yeah, in that time, project costs and then things like that have gone up since then.
So was part of the funding was the grant for $360,000, and so originally was that going to be $100,000 from the town, 360 from the grant? Is it?
Yeah, that's correct. 360 the maximum from the grant and 100,000 from the town.
So now there's an additional 600,000 with scope change and increased cost.
Yeah, that reflects the actual contract price plus a 20% contingency.
Right.
Expected work, any sort of testing or inspection work that needs to be done.
Okay, and if this gets approved by the RTM, then when can they start work? Do you know? Do you have a sense? Do you have a sense for?
Bill, I can answer that.
Okay.
We would have to go to the other two boards because we're seeking the additional funding. But once that's done, we would then award the contract and the bid. We'll have to come back here probably to finalize a contract with the particular low bidder. We did check the references on that low bidder and they were good, so that's good news.
Right.
And then we would give them the notice to proceed, most likely because it's a lot of it is sometimes specialized traffic equipment and there's some other detailed materials. They would order it during the winter and most likely, we were hoping they could maybe do a little stretch in this calendar year.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be those springtime, but if they.
The dollars are locked in.
Right, exactly, yeah. Correct.
And the project's gonna take how many months? I can't, do you remember? It's not a year, is it?
No, it was we're figuring 6 to 9 months at most.
Okay.
It could be, depending on if the contractor has 2 crews, it could possibly even do between 4 and 6 months.
Okay.
So I would probably put in that range of 6 to 9 just to play it.
Okay. Thank you.
Start of spring though, they should definitely finish in 2025 if you don't.
Okay.
Construction season.
That's great. Christine, do you have any questions or comments?
In terms of the $600,000 and impact on the waterfall, that would be for next year? Is this, we accounted?
That's next year. Yeah, I don't, we haven't bonded for the 600,000.
So it would just be impacting next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No further questions. I remember when this was before us, and I guess we will be speaking about it again when the contract, when the bid is awarded, if this funding is approved by all town bodies. So I'll say specifics then.
Okay. The bid is good for 90 days, Bill or Anthony?
Yeah, typically that's the purchasing standard.
Okay. Okay. Any comments from the public? I'm not sure anyone from the public is on. Liz, any comments? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Thank you, Anthony. This is a long time coming. I think Southport is happy with it. Item 14, engineering manager, to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract between the town of Fairfield and the New York NY-Con Corporation of Danbury, Connecticut to provide all labor, materials, and equipment and all else necessary for traffic signal replacement and 360-degree video detection installation at 4 intersections as detailed in Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-15 and the NYCon Corporation bid submission dated September 26, 2024 for a total fee of $882,279 inclusive of the base bid and add alternates, with additional authority to enter into change orders in an amount not to exceed 10% of the original contract value. Funding for this project will be available in account 1450-1010-5996-81014 ARPA-traffic lights. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. All right, Bill.
This is the traffic signal improvements that have been on the waterfall chart and part of the ARPA program. By approving this contract, we will then encumber that amount, and so therefore we will be able to spend all the ARPA money that was allocated for the traffic lights. Just as a reminder that there's a cost share with the Sacred Heart that's confirmed in a MOU with Sacred Heart. They'll be responsible for 50% on the base bid. The add alternate section is for 4 cameras. That is not Sacred Heart related. That would be on our own.
Right. So I can't recall whether the 882,000 that's the full amount, right? Or is that our share?
No, that's the full amount.
Right, so we'll get reimbursed for less than half of that when you back out the cameras, half of that.
Yeah, approximately, I think it was like 50% of like 727 or something.
Right, okay. Any questions, Christine?
No.
Any comments from the board, from the public? Seeing no one from the public, back to the board, unless Mike, any comment? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Adam, and purchasing and Mega. As I said, we try to work together as a team to get these out. And thank you, Jen, by the way, as well, from your office.
Jen Carpenter?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and thanks to you for negotiating this with Sacred Heart. And I know the president's mentioned it to me several times. And, it's this is going to look really nice, going to be a lot safer, and that whole area is going to have to see a lot of improvement over the coming years. Thank you. Item number 15, purchasing authority to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement with Race Coastal Engineering of Stratford, Connecticut to provide engineering services and all else necessary for the replacement of the McLeavey and Riverside tide gates per Town of Fairfield RFP number 2025-18 and the Race Coastal Engineering proposal dated October 10th, 2024 for a base contract amount of $232,000. Funding for these projects will be available on accounts 228-09010-5700-023 Pine Creek Mcleavey Tide Gate 20-year and 228-090-010-5700-023 T4 Riverside Creek Tide Gate 20-year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Bill.
Again, these projects been on the waterfall chart. RFP was put out. We followed the procurement process, and Race Coastal Engineering was selected. And design costs that they put in the contract are within their budget that was approved back in 2023.
And what's your feeling for the time frame going forward? So the design, and then
yeah, the design typically for these type of projects, they the McLeavey and the Riverside are singular tide gates. They're not the multiple ones like we've had some in the past recently approved. So we're figuring again somewhere for the design to roughly take 6 to 9 months. In that period, you have to get permits. And hoping that these are existing tie gates and they can go for what they call certificate of permission, which would probably mean that these projects, after they're, for say a year design, we could then put them out to bid and construct them. If you have to go for a permit, though, you have to add another 6 more months to the project. So we're looking at the design and construction probably taking anywhere from optimistically 12, 14 months to a range of 18 months and perhaps 20 months.
So what determines if you need a permit or not?
The DEP will be is if we have an existing permit in place, and it's a rather basic replacement, you're not changing the hydraulics or anything like that, then that would be a certificate of permission.
Oh.
Basically, they look at it as just a replacement.
Okay.
If you're going to do something different, which we don't know exactly yet, but if you're going to do something different, or the project involves some dike repair or something that was not permitted, that will force it into the.
So our instructions on the design are to do what we need, and what
Exactly.
we need may end up being a different type of hydraulics or something.
Right.
Interesting. Okay.
I think is Megan still, Meg is still on. Megan, do you have anything to add further?
No, I think we are good with the schedule wise. Just to let you know, once the notice to proceed to the consultants go, we will have a kickoff meeting, and that's when the schedule will be more clear to us, because the permitting wise, Army Corps and Army Corps can take longer for this, and this may require Army Corps because it's similar to South Pine Creek Railroad Bridge. So in times of permitting, we can go design phase to completion can go from 1 year to at least 1.5 year. We can see that.
Okay.
Usually, if the DEP is on board, Army Corps hopefully follows suit. We're not, since these are existing
Right.
tie gates.
So it's not like the Rooster River where the Army Corps sort of took the project over.
Right, well, not only that, but that was something totally brand new.
Right, got it.
Just explain.
And
then even the one that she had mentioned before, with the railroad, we had originally 3 and then we made 5. You see, so those are significant changes. That's why it takes longer.
And for environmental, are there risks that you see for environmental, like if they have to soil or have to sample?
We do. Actually, as part of the scope, we will be having environmental sampling done simultaneously with all the geotechnical investigation, and that will be part of the scope. If hopefully nothing is very bad there, and if it is, then we have to follow the full protocols for removal and remediation. That will be part of the scope.
Yeah, it's part of the scope of the design, right? That's part of what Race is subcontracting to
Yes.
Weston Sampson, right?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was thinking, like you never know, right?
No, you never know.
Never know.
But
Okay.
as you know, our town, I guess called policy is anytime we excavate, we want to do the testing to make sure.
That's a deeper require that, right? Or
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
okay. So this is a long-term project. We'll be talking about this for next couple of years, it sounds like. Christine, any questions or comments? You're on mute.
No additional questions.
Okay. Back to the public. Any member of the public wish to speak? Kathy, anything to say? Back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Bill. You are still on the hook. Engineering manager, number 16, to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract with the Grasso Companies Inc., Stamford, Connecticut, to provide all labor, materials, and equipment necessary for the Rooster River Flood Mitigation Project at 150 Villa Avenue, as detailed in the Town of Fairfield bid number 2025-12, and the Grasso Company's bid submission dated October 17, 2024, for a total fee of $856,000, with additional authority to enter into change orders in the amount not to exceed 10% of the original contract value. Funding for this project will be available on account 269-050-70-59040 flood control costs. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Bill, thank you.
As mentioned before, we put the project out to bid. This is the 150 Villa Avenue, the open space parcel that was purchased a couple of years ago. This is part of the Rooster River flood control design for detention. This is a smaller detention area. It really benefits in terms of detention, a smaller neighborhood as opposed to the larger detention basins that are being proposed. But this also involves kind of creating an open space. There'll be a minor trail network or some paths there. It will also involve water quality basin and wetland plantings. And there'll also be some tree planting involved as well. And although the $856,000, seems like a lot of money, I just want to emphasize too that we have 3 separate grants on this parcel. The town has received, we can use some of the Urban Act grant that was approved a couple of years ago. Recently, conservation through Tim Bishop was awarded the Trail Network, and that has some grant money. And just last week or so, we found out that application that we had submitted for DEEP, what they call Section 319, was also approved. So we have a good chunk of this money. We'll have the grants to help reimburse some of these folks.
Congratulations on actually taking advantage of that. You and Mega, thank you for doing that. That was very exciting. And that was 200.
It's Section 319. I think it was 280. There is a small, there is some cost share to it. The Trail Network, forgive me, but I'm going to say it's roughly 250.
Yeah, I think so.
And then the Urban Act grant, that was part of the $2.5 million package, and we have a little bit of flexibility on that to use some of the money for this as well.
So this is such an interesting project because I remember when you first had this opportunity, your expectations for this were a little bit less because it was like a smaller footprint, I believe, and you've been able to add on to it, and doing that, you were able to sort of fix some of the drainage issues.
Yes, some of these improvements will be for some drainage improvements along Algonquin Road, and through we were able to obtain another 3/4 of an acre on Algonquin to increase the actual size of the open space.
Yeah, so that's good. Christine, any comments or questions?
No, just excited to see this. We've been talking about Rooster River all year. So any work being done in that neighborhood is good. Thank you for your work in trying to get us some more grants to fund this project. Excited to see it move forward. And I no further questions right now.
On the Fairchild Wheeler and Tungus Hill, we're still waiting. Have we gotten comments? The comments back?
The comment period ended, and so a quick update on that is the consultant has formalized their responses. The town just has to double check or maybe add a couple of other responses that they may not be familiar with, and then we hope to send it out sometime later this week.
Awesome.
And then hopefully that gets the ball rolling. Yep.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Bill. Congrats.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Thank you, Mega.
Thank you. Thanks.
So item number 17, registrar of voters to hear an update from the Registrar of Voters on early voting in preparation for Election Day. Selectwoman Vitale, would you like to just comment on you had requested to put this on?
I did, thank you. Yeah, and I made this request actually, I think last Wednesday or Tuesday. I had just been out and about doing a little canvassing, talking to people about the upcoming election, and a lot of people just didn't seem to, some didn't even know that there was early voting in Connecticut. Others just had questions about the where and when and the how. At that point, when I made the request for this to be added to the agenda, I hadn't gotten the mailer. So I was happy to see that. I got it on Friday. So thank you for your efforts in getting that out. I think it's really just important for voters to be notified. This is a big election year with it being a presidential election, and with the early voting, there's a lot of new districts for some people who haven't voted since the last presidential election. Their polling places may have changed. So wanted to give you the opportunity just to provide any update to how early voting is going. When you were before us during the budget, we had a discussion about staffing, and there was some concern about whether or not you would have the proper seasonal part-time staff to support early voting. So being that we're 13 days out or so from Election Day, just wanted to check in, get any feedback on how early voting is going, and if there's anything else you need in terms of, from the Board of Selectmen perspective. Appreciate that it is not our purview, but I just wanted to check in. So thank you both for taking time. When I made the request, it wasn't even on my radar that I'd be taking you away from early voting supervision, so I will try to keep this brief. But for the public's sake, I'm happy to see you here and have you report. It's just another way of getting the word out.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, early voting, we wouldn't know that nobody knew anything about it. It seems to be quite popular. The parking lot is busy here and at both locations. We're getting about, the first 2 days it was around 1,100 each day. Today I'd say a little bit less than that. So we were expecting the first 2 days to be very busy and the last 2 days to be very busy, according to, the Secretary of State's office, their guidance that they had given us. Staffing seems to be fine. People are very pleased with, how everything is going. They seem to be very happy to cast their vote early and appreciative of all the staff members there. So we do have proper staffing. We did each hire assistant registrars to take over for the full-time admin. However, I'm definitely missing the 20-year experience, but it is what it is, so to speak with that. So we just have, a few more things to decide, like where the same day registration, what room that's gonna be in, and also where central count will be located. So we have to, discuss that, and ballot security still.
Yeah, so, hey, Matt, do you want to add anything?
Sure. Just appreciating Christine's point that this is a great sort of opportunity to sort of spread the word and as a public information source. The one thing I think that has been surprising to me has been the limited number of people who have actually been registering to vote at the early voting sites. And it's a change that was made to the law that typically during this week and the next week, we would be able to accept voter registrations from people who want to register through the mail and online. And this year, during this period when we're early voting, the only way you can register to vote is at an early voting site. So we tried to emphasize that in the mailing, and in part sending it to addresses where people are not registered as well and letting them know about their opportunity to register. But we would love to let the public know and make the public more aware of the fact that if you were not registered to vote in Fairfield and you're living in Fairfield, we would love to see you come to early voting and participate and register and vote in the election. So I know in a lot of states the deadlines have passed, and here in Connecticut you can register up until the day of. So by all means, anyone who is hearing this information. I'm imagining that there's not a lot of overlap between Board of Selectmen meeting watchers and non-registered voters, but to the extent that that information can spread, we would love to see people registering as well during this time.
So
I appreciate that. And I just, sometimes the press, picks up our meetings. So it was really just, and again, I apologize. As I said, I hadn't gotten the mailer. I think that once people did get that in the mail, it definitely helped educate the public. I don't want to assume, I know that the first selectman sent out a memo about early voting last week, and has been in the town newsletter, but just don't want to assume that every resident gets the newsletter or has internet connection. So I like to, especially for something as important as voting, want to make sure that we're just sharing information through multiple avenues. So we've done it through the newsletter, you've done it through the mailing, we're giving you an opportunity right now just to report publicly on the public record. So again, thank you, for your time. And I've been, in town hall, and I see all the people. It's been hard to find parking in town hall. So
that's a good sign.
It's definitely exciting to see. Do you know how we're doing as compared to other towns in Connecticut? I know there was some discussion,
statistical information statewide. I know about 60,000 voted in the first day. That was information I think that we saw yesterday that came from the state. And so Connecticut has about 2.5 million. So 60,000 would be about 2%. So if we're seeing 1,000 a day, we would be about on average for that. And I'll say we're one of a small number of towns that actually proactively notifies people by mail. Having a mailing go out is not something that we're required to do, that we do. So hopefully that makes a difference. And I'll say, one of the things that has sunk into me a little bit is how mail is not really a valued source for a lot of our constituents. So possibly trying to broaden our sort of media portfolio and how we reach people, I think is a lesson from this election year that I'm taking away, that we can sort of communicate with people through more channels as well.
So do you mind, can I ask a couple questions?
You can, and I'm sorry for interrupting before.
No, I appreciate it. No, I just want to, so
in terms of deciding.
Kathy sent like a outline of issue how things are going, what's going on. In the last section was outstanding issues, and Kathy just mentioned outstanding issues. One of them is where we'll be doing the counts, the location, and so what are the issues with finding a location to do that would be the early voting and or would that be early voting and absentee voting? Right?
Yeah, that would be early voting, absentee voting, and same day registration, counting. I would like the location to be the second floor conference room at Old Town Hall. And Matt, I believe, would like it at Fairfield Ludlow High School in the cafeteria, or Fairfield Woods Middle School. I believe, it's nice to have a Zoom room. Dave Kelly had mentioned that it could be Zoom, so people could, watch that and they might feel more comfortable. Old Town Hall is the traditional location where we count them, and it minimizes the movement of ballots. They're already stored there. But I am willing to do it here at Sullivan Independence Hall in the basement, but we are in violation. Secretary of State's office will be referring this to SEEK because we are late.
When's the deadline for?
That already passed. Betsy had to put it in the paper. I think it was a couple weeks ago. Matt would probably know off the top of his head.
So Matt, this has to be, you have to nail this down like ASAP, right?
Sure. So I'm happy to talk about that if you would like. So we having discussions about both. I guess Kathy's preference is also to have the same day registration activity on election day actually take place in the registrar of voters office in the 4 foot by 12 foot public area of the office. So we're talking about sort of where we place these things so that they are both accessible to the public and functional on some level. Now, I'll say that I agreed over kind of my concerns about using Old Town Hall as the same day registration location. We have never had a presidential election same day registration take place at Town Hall. 2016, we did at Fairfield University in this very large Barone campus center. In 2020, we located all 10 polling places in the town so that people, when they discovered they were not registered to vote, would be able to register and vote at the same site without leaving. We see a large number of people, people who are procrastinators or only become aware that they're not registered when they try to vote, taking advantage of same day registration. And so we would see a larger number than we are seeing daily through the early voting process at Town Hall. That is, I don't think that our office could accommodate that. I think that the room we're using right now for early voting could sort of potentially accommodate it, right? Like, the process is much longer for people who are registering, so it's not exactly like the throughput would not be as quick as it is now. But that is something that I agreed to, kind of in interest of moving forward on our mailing and a variety of other things. I will say that I don't think that we can use that site for the counting of absentee ballots, in part because even a high election where we have had a presidential election where we typically have something like 3,000 absentee ballots, strains the ability to use that site. I'll say that when we did central counting there in 2018, and we had 6 teams of workers, the heat, just the body heat from having 12 people in there was so great that the equipment malfunctions and need to be brought out into the cold weather to be able to work again. So we're planning to have between 30 and 40 people in addition to whatever public may want to take part or view the process, since it is a public place. I'm really skeptical that we could more than double the capacity of that room and work productively to count what we're on track to probably be in the 16 to 20,000 ballot range altogether. So I think a larger space is warranted. I know that the administration suggested the Independence Hall conference room to us, which is a little bit larger. I did the measurements there, and I have not yet been able to look at a floor plan to see if I think it would work. It's about 180 square feet more than the conference room at Old Town Hall. So I think the larger facilities we have in the town, whether as Kathy mentioned, I've been talking about the Woods Middle School and Ludlow. I think also, other schools that we are using, if we do have, if the parking is available, something like Ward perhaps might be an option as well. Something where we are able to have more room for these many counters to count these many ballots. I think.
Yeah. So can you just, the 30 to 40 people, how many of them are counters and would need to be?
That is all straight up all counters.
All counters. Are there observers as well, or?
People from the public may take an interest. So you may, I'm not sure if you
will have to be in the
room.
room.
A large quantity last year, for example.
So really 30 to 40 is the number of people you need to be able to.
30 tops, I think.
But I don't think you could have 40 people in this room where we are right now counting. You could put 40 people in the room, but they wouldn't all be able to count, I don't think.
It was the basement level, right? So that's.
Oh, the conference
that's much
room.
Bigger, yeah.
Yeah, the break room.
Yeah.
So you'd have to set up tables and have people around tables and be able to count.
I still think the second floor conference room would definitely work, because you could would fit 2 more tables in there. There's an air conditioning unit in there, yeah.
Old Town Hall.
And it could be zoomed. I don't know if the basement floor here has the ability for a Zoom, but I kind of like that idea, so people can observe the process and feel more comfortable about it.
So how do we get, because if we don't want to get a Sikh violation, so we need to resolve this, right? But there are issues now with like accessibility, second floor, Old Town Hall. That elevator is tricky. It's going to get replaced.
It's that's why I think same day registration could be in the office. We had an issue yesterday where the poll workers, they're not seasoned on the Connecticut voter registration system. And all the same day registration ballots were in the wrong envelopes. So we had to fix them all afterwards. You need the seasoned staff, and that's the 5 of us in the office. You take some of us and move us to a different location within Old Town Hall. We're not there to answer the phone. I'm expecting, we've got 14 days of same day registration, and we're expecting less volume on election day.
Okay, so for counting though, if you were to have it in the conference room on the 2nd floor, like let's maybe tomorrow, if you guys are gonna have to come to an agreement, but just there's some logical issues, like if the elevator breaks down at Old Town Hall, can everyone actually get to the 2nd floor? I don't know.
It's staff. There hasn't been an issue with it so far, but I was willing to compromise and do it downstairs here in the basement.
So have you looked at it yet?
I've been down there one time. It's a lot of room.
I would assume it's adequately air conditioned down there. I think it's pretty cool down there, right? Yeah. Prue's nodding her head. I trust Prue. But so with that, we don't need to broker this here, but you guys need to decide on this like soon, right? Yeah, Christine.
How long would this process take, the count?
We're gonna begin counting early voting ballots at 6 a.m. on election day. And we have 2 shifts of workers, 6 to 2, and then 2 until closing, which hopefully would be around 9ish or something. So, it seems adequate for me.
And where will you and Matt be on election day?
We're in the office, the phone.
You're not out in the field, you're here.
Yeah, we really need, the phones are ringing off the hook, poll workers calling, this person showed up at this location, where are they registered now type of deal. So we get a lot of those kind of calls, and the public, how long are the polls open until, it's just an enormous volume of calls.
So I just want to make it clear to everyone that the executive branch of government does not control this process, right? This is, you guys were elected to do this. I can help facilitate use of a space if you need it. We can lean on, people who work for the town but certainly make something available, but we can't force you to do anything. So I think the public needs to understand that, like, we have elected officials who are responsible for this, and you just have to get this done. And so hopefully you'll get it done, but I'm available if you want to look into a space and you're not getting a phone call return, I can help with that. I don't know, Christine? Yeah.
And I agree that I appreciate this is not my purview, but just to understand the challenges that you're facing right now, it sounds like for logistics, that you want a room that's big enough to house 40 people comfortably, that will not overheat.
Not overheat.
30 people.
Or 30 people that will not, temperature controlled, accessible.
It has to be able to be locked up or no?
We'll be present all the time.
What did you say, Matt?
There's nothing we leave there. We
You would not leave it there.
with the ballots and we leave with the ballots. So no ballots will be staying there.
Okay.
And the public is able to watch this process?
Correct. They can't see how people voted on the ballots. They can't be that close. So that's why the Zoom is kind of helpful, but.
So ideally, at least if I'm hearing Ms. Politi right, a town facility that was also equipped for as a Zoom room. So.
Well, that's not going to happen downstairs. A Zoom room.
Or a Zoom that has a capability.
Like some
capability,
right? Yeah.
Anywhere we have internet access, we could put a laptop out.
Right. Okay. But not like because the Zoom room is in the ceiling and all that. That's not going to happen between now and then. But
well, depending on, and else if you go to an alternate location. you know,
election management team prefers it to be on town hall campus.
town hall campus.
Who's the election management team?
In the state, or wait, which,
The police, fire, homeland security, the meetings
Right.
we've been going to.
right.
I haven't heard them weigh in about that choice of locations in any way.
But it's kind of logical, isn't it? If it could be done here, if there was an appropriate room, you could just walk down the street if there's an issue and they need you, as opposed to having to drive somewhere. Is that fair enough, Matt? If there's an appropriate room.
Well, I would say we have polling places all over the town who will occasionally require our attention or an emergency intervention. You know, I would say we're much more likely to have a problem if we don't have an adequate workspace for them, right? So that's my main concern. I don't have I've not done a floor plan to see if the basement would work or not. Again, it is like 170, 180 square feet larger than the conference room upstairs. But I also want to say that the conference room upstairs is, I think, the only suitable place in the old town hall building to actually do the same day registration. That having the office staff, the people who are there responding to constituent calls and polling place calls and support calls from our poll workers, doing data entry all day, I think is a really, you know, it concerns me, having worked in presidential elections and knowing sort of the call volume and the activity level that we have, to say that we're gonna put our attention into that instead of delegating it to the people we've trained during these 2 early voting weeks, to sort of focus on doing paperwork with voters who want to register that day instead of doing the things that only we as registrars can do.
Basically, be getting around 8 each day, so I prefer people aren't from the office, aren't up there twiddling their thumbs. We need them downstairs, and like I said, there's been mistakes with the current poll workers. It takes a long time to learn the voter registration system. Matt, you even said that in your testimony up in Hartford, how long it takes. And you were concerned about the same thing back then.
Sure.
So, given that we can't.
That doesn't mean that I think it's a good plan to remove our office staff from doing election management to instead doing data entry, right? That is a totally different use of personnel that I think is very unwise.
14 days before that, where we offer same day registration, so I think the numbers are gonna be much lower.
So can you guys
pointed out it's something on the order of 8 or 9 a day that we've seen so far. I don't think that's gonna move the needle on the number we see on election day.
Which is a risk. So can you guys commit to working this out tomorrow? Like, if not, then the town's gonna, I mean, ultimately, if you can't work it out, the town is gonna suffer, which you're not, I'm sure, you don't want that to happen.
Right.
So somehow you're gonna have to come up with a solution.
Prioritize the voter and make sure we have a smooth election. I really don't.
But if it doesn't get resolved, then there won't be a smooth election. So somehow you guys are gonna have to work through it. You know, you're adults, you're elected.
Usually, you know, honestly, what he usually tells me is, you know, if I give you this, what am I gonna get? And I don't view it that way. I view it as doing what's best for the voters and for the process.
But
I don't see
then I can't.
me getting something I want.
But if you guys don't agree and we don't have a place to count on election day.
Well, I accepted the mediation of doing it downstairs here in the basement. Matt did not.
Is there a mediation process for this whole thing? I mean, I'd love to find somebody who just tell you what to do, but I don't think that's the way it works.
Well, it sounds like we have metrics in terms of choosing a space, in terms of ideally town property, you know, a room that's big enough, temperature control, some level of security, being able to have room for the public to view, being able for Zoom. And I would just ask both registrars and Mr. First Selectman, your office, to just work with them, being that you potentially could help them identify other town spaces and get this wrapped up. Because I very much appreciate, you know, the sentiment that our responsibility is ultimately to the voters and making sure that everyone makes voting as easy and as accessible as possible. Want to streamline the process for you. I thank you for all your hard work to date and want to help in any way that I can. So really, a thank you for coming before us. It was really just an opportunity to see if we could help facilitate your already difficult jobs right now. This is going to be a landmark election, and the early voting definitely, I think we all appreciate the added level of stress and planning for the two of you, and echo Mr. Gerber in asking that you both just work together, because I think that you both are concerned and the priority is our residents. So I will end with that, being that I asked. I began by asking this to be put on the agenda, and I don't want to take you away from the work that you have to do.
Yeah, but I thought it was a really good idea, Christine, to put this on the agenda, because you guys have worked really hard, both of you. I've seen you both at regional preparation meetings. You've been preparing for this for what, 6 months with the state and with local, emergency services and all that. So and it comes down to, what are the biggest priorities for making sure the election runs without a hitch? We know it won't run without a hitch if you don't agree on these two things. We know that's a problem. So, and we also, if it's a really hot room and everyone's passing out in the room, that's not good. So I get that, Matt. But for the other stuff, whether it requires, some special considerations, or whether it's on downstairs or whether it's on another site. I mean, you guys can work that out, as long as it's not so hot that people aren't passing out, as long as the room is big enough, and as long as you can have steady communications with that site. I'm sure you can work it out. I mean, you're going to have to work it out.
Yeah, I guess I'll say I don't fundamentally understand why the public would be served by using smaller locations rather than larger rooms. I just don't.
You guys are going to have to, you're going to have to work it out, because what Kathy said is she thinks that it's preferable to have it near your office. So they're both opinions, but somehow you're going to have to figure out how to get a place nailed down.
And I'll say my perspective is that, I sort of overcame my objections to using the town hall site instead of a more centrally located spot in the town, to move forward with the process. And I guess I'm, again, Kathy sort of used this term in a negative and objectionable way, but, I expect her to compromise as well, as I did.
Yeah, so, I think the whole town expects you guys to agree. And if you don't, then I have to question the whole system that we have in place here, which, no one wants to do. So
I would see it as something of compromise. I'll give an example. I want the sample ballots posted on the town website. He said, "What are you going to give me for it?"
I absolutely didn't say that.
No, I don't think you guys don't want to get into this now, but I think really the only thing anyone cares about other than yourselves is that this runs without a hitch, and that we have locations and we don't have a seat violation, and then it runs without a hitch. So that's all anyone cares about.
Unfortunately, we already do have a seat violation.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. So, but it sounds like that's both your faults. So I do think you guys are going to have to do this within a very short period of time, and just swallow whatever your pride is, and just make sure that the top priorities of what your issues are answered. I can't force you to do anything. I'm begging you, though. Please do it. Thank you. And thanks for all your work. So next we have number 18, the Golf Commission, to hear a presentation from the Golf Commission on a 10-year plan. Anthony Calabrese, I'm sorry you've been here for
It's all right.
10 hours.
2 hours almost.
Not a problem at all. I'm Anthony Calabrese, Director of Parks and Recreation. Golf Commission has been working very hard on a 10-year plan. We put together a subcommittee of 3 of our members who presented this plan to our full Golf Commission, who has endorsed it, and now we are at the point where we'd like to present it to you guys. You guys are gonna see it first as the Board of Selectmen, and then we plan to go to the Board of Finance in November and the RTM as well in November. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mike Harrington from our Golf Commission. He headed up this subcommittee, and then I'm gonna try to help him through the PowerPoint on the screen. So
Okay, I was gonna ask you, do you want me to do it or can you do it? Okay, good.
as long as I hit the right buttons.
Mike.
I think I'd rather he did.
May I introduce, Mike Harrington is one of the most dedicated public servants that any of us have ever seen in Fairfield. He was instrumental on the putting the, really bringing the senior golf,
17 years as president.
17 years as president. Before that, very active with the marina and just a real, also Lake Hills district president for many years. So thanks for being here, Mike.
Thank you. Good to be here. I guess for the record, the name is George Michael Harrington, just to keep everything above board. I'm delighted to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to address this. This is our presentation, and this is what the objective of our subcommittee was and of our plan. We want to lay out the steps necessary to preserve the golf course revenues, and I'll show you data on that. Continue a track record of revenues exceeding operating expenses, and to keep the golf course to a benchmark standard of play. I'm going to go through the plan overview, which is the current state of all 3 areas. When we're addressing not only H. Smith Richardson, but also the Carl Bickman Par 3 golf course and the driving range. Then we'll talk to you about the improvements that we propose and the financial impact of that. This is a busy slide, but this basically shows the combined operational performance of all of the golf operations, Carl Bickman, the golf course, and the driving range. And the point of this slide is if you look at the 5th line down that says total revenue, am I allowed to walk around?
You can walk around.
Okay.
Now we have the, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, they'll hear you better if you stand on the table.
The total revenue line, you can see that the revenue runs in the neighborhood of $3 million, and it's been fairly flat over the last 4 or 5 years. The operating costs were $1.8 million back in 2021. They're up now to about 2.3 million, and that's just basically a combination of escalation, having gotten permission from the town to spend some money in some selected operational areas. But the operational income is definitely positive, and in the last year it was in excess of $700,000. The debt burden at the bottom, you'll see it's a couple $100,000 and it jumps up to 500 or so thousand in the fiscal year 23-24. That is the impact of the $7 million new clubhouse. And that was a fiscal year 22-23 was the first year where we saw the full debt burden of making that capital investment. But when you add in the debt burden, the golf course is still in the black for all the years that we put the data together here. There's some data about each of the courses. You can see Carl Bickman's rounds. If you go back to 2018, there were only about 18,000 rounds a year. What happens in around fiscal year 20 is COVID. And what you'll see in both golf courses, when COVID hit and people had to stay home and wanted to get out of the house and go somewhere where they could be away from other people and be healthy and safe, golf became a very favorite place to go. So the rounds at the Carl Bickman course jumped up to the low 30,000 range. 34,000 was a peak in 2020, and we run around 30 to 31,000 rounds a year. Because of that, the financial performance in the lower slide is excellent, and the course itself is in very, very good condition. Down on
Carl Bickman?
Yeah, the Carl Vickman course is in pretty good shape.
Really?
We need to cut down some trees because some line of sight issues, but basically the course is in good shape.
So the sand trap, were the sand traps all,
No, they weren't all done.
they have been, Peter?
No, we just maintain them.
Okay, okay.
Driving range. The driving range has been an up and down problem. It is separate from the golf course, from Nate Smith's Richardson Golf Course. And you can see from the data there that it's been an up and down proposition. It's historically been in very poor condition with an old building, but the town approved $550,000 of capital to invest in the driving range. We rebuilt the stalls, we added heat, lights, and a technology called Top Tracer. So when a golfer now goes up to the course, they have a TV screen in effect next to them that shows them the projection of what their shot was and how far it went, and how high it went, and all that good stuff. We did do the construction and rebuilt the range itself, and we opened that about a month and a half ago. And we are also authorized to put in a short range practice area, which we're going to put in between the driving range and the softball field up at that same location. And that will contain bunkers for practicing your bunker shots. I don't have to do that. I never get in the bunkers. And then we'll also put putting greens in. 2025 budget that I showed earlier is the first year with the full impact of the driving range. It's going to have a substantial financial impact and will comfortably pay back the investment the town has made in improving that facility. Smith, the rounds again, if you look at fiscal year 2021, 56,000 rounds. That's COVID, and that's crazy. We are running in the neighborhood of 50,000 rounds a year. I'd like to introduce Peter Sechrist. Peter is chairman of the Golf Commission. Welcome, Peter. But 50,000 rounds a year is all this golf course can handle. We put together some data on the USGA regional municipal public golf courses on how many rounds they have to get a comparison to Smith. For the year 2022, when we had full year data, we looked at about 45 different municipal and public courses. The single highest number of rounds was 49,000 rounds at H. Smith Richardson Golf Course. As a point of comparison, that same year, Tashua, which is a good competitive golf course locally, had 46,000 rounds. The Wheel had 75,000 rounds, but they have two courses and they go all year round. So this golf course is getting as much use as it could possibly absorb. And if you look at the finances, you can see that the golf course is operated in the black consistently, both on an operational basis and also when you add in and include the debt service. Other things about Smith that I think are important to the town. Because of the new clubhouse and the new concessionaire, we've been able to have a lot of charity events. We have 17 of them scheduled for this year. They're all Fairfield-based charities, and we estimate that we will raise about $440,000 for the various charities as a result of using the golf course. We also have a new golf professional who came in about 3 years ago, Bob Bigonette. And Bob is passionate about golf and teaching people golf and getting people interested in golf. And he started this youth program. And he also started a program of a series of seminars. He has one, for example, at no charge for veterans. He has other ones for adults who come in and want to take lessons. And you can see there that he's got somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 people that he's introducing to golf or encouraging and expanding their interest in golf. And that's bringing in another $45,000 in revenue to the town, net of Bob's staff expenses for these programs. Now, let's talk about various parts of the course. Cart paths. The USGA recommends that a cart path be a minimum of 8 feet wide, and a minimum width standard is a major safety event because that allows for emergency equipment and vehicles to get around the course in the event you need to have that. We have at Smith about 5.5 miles of cart path. About a mile of those meet this USDA requirement. About a half a mile of fairways have no cart path. And I'll show you this in a visual in a minute. The remaining 4 miles are in poor condition. They are inadequate for emergency vehicles, which makes them hazardous and unsafe. There's risk of damage to the golf carts. That's how bad they are. And the golfers themselves don't want to use the cart paths. They use the course, and that causes a lot of wear and tear on the golf course. So the cart paths are in sorry shape, and as you'll see, we're going after them. This is a Google Earth that shows you the layout of the cart path. This is the back 9, and we talk about, you know, emergency issues and equipment getting in there. When you get down to the lower part of this slide, you're back in the woods. And there's no way to get an ambulance in there if you ever had a problem there. The green cart paths all meet the 8-foot width requirements. The yellow cart paths are present but under spec. And the red one, there's no cart path. It's just dirt. These are the front 9 divided in 2 sections, same pattern. The green cart path on the first hole is a specification cart path, and it's the only one on the front 9. The yellow ones are there, but they're narrow and bumpy and rough. And again, over on the 9th hole, the red one there, you've got a stretch there where there's no cart path at all. Bunkers. This is the history of the rebuild of the bunkers. In 2010, a 10-year plan was put together and brought before you all, and you approved it. And it was implemented over the next 10 years. And one of the most significant parts of that program was rebuilding bunkers. The problem we had is the drainage was so poor that if we got a rainstorm, the bunkers would fill up and they would take a 2 or 3 day period to drain out and be useful again. So this shows you the history of the rebuilding of the bunkers, but you will note that we have not rebuilt bunkers for almost 10 years now. And the USDA estimates the typical life of a bunker is 8 to 10 years. The current conditions is acceptable. Peter Grace and his crew at the golf course has done as much as they can to try to preserve and sustain the bunkers, and they've really done a good job. So they've kept them useful and they still drain adequately. The sand is in very poor quality and is very much of marginal quality. So this is another issue with the current thing. The greens are terrific. We had a USDA agronomist up there about 3 months ago. He went around and sampled 6 greens. And when we told him we did 50,000 rounds on this golf course, he absolutely couldn't believe it. And when he put his funnel device in and pulled it up and opened it and looked at the greens, he saw 3/4 of an inch of grass, another inch or so of loose dirt with root systems in it, and below that sand to give you good drainage. And he said the greens are in terrific shape. He just can't believe that they're that good. Trees. Once again, we've had the agronomists up 3 different times, and one of the recommendations every time they come up is that we've got to prune the trees. The guys that came up in 2021 gave us a 1-year plan. They took photographs, they put X's on the trees. We were unable to implement that 1-year plan since then because we just don't have those kind of resources in the current maintenance staff. I mean, they can take care of the golf course and the bunkers and the greens, but they haven't been able to do much in terms of cutting down trees. So we have a big issue with trees, and I'll talk about what we intend to do that in a minute. Drainage. Another major part of the 10-year plan from 2010 was that the golf course needed drainage because we would get rain events and we would have cart path only days. And a lot of people like me, if I can't use a cart path on the fairway, then I have a hard time getting around playing golf. What that did was it severely affected pace of play, and it severely affected the number of rounds. When we put in all this drainage work, and this is pre-COVID, this was done around between 2015 and 2019, we reduced dramatically the number of cart path only days, and that really raised the number of rounds. And that was another contributor to getting, COVID was a big one, but in addition to COVID, getting those rounds up to 50,000 again, was largely the result of eliminating the cart path only days. The current state is acceptable and the current maintenance crews are able to maintain it as it is. All right, so what are we proposing? We're talking about a plan of $1.5 million for 10 years. At Smith, major cart path, $500,000 will rebuild all of the non-specification cart paths. We will be needing bunker work. We know it's coming. It's been 9 years since we've done any. So we put in $350,000 for bunker work. We have significant requirements for tree work, so we put in $400,000 for that. And then at Smith, we do not have a lightning warning system that is automated. And if we put one of those in, it will be $40,000. And lastly, when you come off the 9th green at the end of the clubhouse, there's no restroom facilities without going all the way into the front of and in the clubhouse, and that affects pace of play. And particularly, let's be frank, it's particularly an issue for the ladies to not be able to have a restroom that's turned. So we are proposing that we either do something there at the end of the clubhouse or up at the top of the 10th hole, which is where the current maintenance facility is. And there are some utilities there available to us, like water and electricity, for a better restroom than the portalet that is currently there. Carl Dickman Par 3, we're not proposing to do any capital investments there, but we also there do need a lightning warning system. And at our beautiful new driving range, we still have the old building. And that's where we house our equipment that's used on the range, as well as all of the balls. And in that building, the staff that manages the driving range is housed. So we need to put a new building in there, and that's part of our 10-year plan. And I'll show you as it lays out time-wise where we're proposing to do that. So these are the projects and their priority. Cart paths, number 1 priority. Tree, number 2. Bunkers, number 3. Restroom facilities, 4. Rebuild the bunker. I'm sorry, bunkers are number 5. Replace the building at the driving range, we made number 3 because that's a pretty urgent need. The lighting systems we didn't rate. I don't know how to rate them. I don't know why we don't already have them, to be perfectly frank. And to build them into this plan, I mean, unless someone says it's a real emergency, then it's kind of where do we put them and how do we do it? You'll see in a minute where we schedule the plans. Cart paths, as we've said, 80% of the cart paths are unacceptable. Significant safety issue, poor quality paths cause the carts to be on the course, damaging the course. It's going to be about $500,000, and we would like to do it in one fell swoop. It takes a lot of different kinds of equipment to replace the cart path. We got to come in and dig up and remove everything that's there before. You got to excavate and scale it. You've got to have somebody come in and put in gravel and other foundation, and then you got to come in and lay asphalt. So there's a certain setup cost associated with doing projects like that that's most efficiently handled if we do it as one project rather than doing a third of the course each year for 3 years. So that's what we propose and what we are asking for. There's a little bit of a timing constraint because they will be asphalt paths and the asphalt plant is closed in the winter, which is when we'd love to do the work. So people aren't playing golf. So we've got a little bit of a logistics challenge, and we're working now to put together a more specific specification and scope of work plan to begin over the next few months to go out for bid and lay out a more detailed program. But we visualize doing this over the winter of 25-26. Next winter is when we'd like to do this $500,000 investment.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? So you said there's setup, logistics, and costs for the cart paths. So you're saying I'm sorry, what?
All the equipment that it takes to do.
So you never would want to, like the town would have a plan where they do segments at a time, that you would always just sort of wait for the whole thing to wear out and then replace the whole thing? Or, I mean, do we want to get to a point where we're replacing sections like every year, every other year? So
the whole thing is worn out. We don't need to wait for it to wear out. Those golf
No, they all are, but in terms of moving forward, and the same question for the bunkers, like, why, is there a reason why you wouldn't have an ongoing investment? Why, is there a reason why we have to do them all at once?
Right.
Wouldn't it be part of the annual work?
Excellent question. Let's differentiate. Bunkers and trees, we can do it piecemeal anytime we want. Doing a bunker or another bunker or a bunch of trees, that's not an issue. But coming in and doing the cart paths, where you gotta tear out all the old cart paths and you have to prepare the foundation and come in with the equipment and lay the asphalt for a new cart path, it's not the kind of thing you'd want to do a hole or two at a time, because it would be highly disruptive to play and to the golf course, and probably more expensive because all that equipment is outside equipment coming in. So our thinking is do it in one fell swoop. It's the most efficient way to absorb the setup costs that you need for a project like that and get the whole thing done. So we laid it out as one. It could be spread out over a year or two. I don't think we'd want to do any more because it's a highly disruptive activity on the golf course.
So in the in the not government world, or even in the government world, you know what your future investment costs are likely to be, or what your investments are going to be, and the costs you would estimate, and you would have a sinking fund, or you would accrue for,
Right.
But we're likely not to want to go there with cart
Well,
path.
let me show you how we've laid it out over 10 years. Bill, go ahead. The other big thing was trees again. And there's three issues with trees. One is playability. The trees are infringing on the fairways. They're making it more difficult to play ball, which means people are playing more slowly, which begins to affect pace of play and number of rounds. So our first priority on tree management is to go throughout the course and find areas where the tree growth has infringed on the actual playing on the course. The second issue, which the USGA agronomists bring up, is turf health. We have lots of areas where we don't get enough sunlight because of the trees that have grown up along the side of the course for good, healthy turf. And while the greens are in excellent shape, the sampling that they did in the fairways weren't nearly as positive. So we do have an issue with turf health, and a lot of it is basically sunlight. And then we have a basic forest management issue. If you go up to that golf course and you look around the areas that are literally forest, there's dead trees everywhere. They need to be pruned, and it needs to be cleaned out so that the other trees will be much more healthy and grow much better. So we are proposing both removal of trees, lots of them, and in some places we will replace them. There are some non-native species of trees that were put in previous years that we think are, and the tree warden has been up and taken a look at that and said, yeah, we ought to put different kinds of trees in there. So to manage the long-term program for the trees, we really need a professional, either agronomist or a forester or somebody that can walk through the course. We can identify the trees that affect playability, but those that affect turf health and other things, we don't have the skill set within our staff to do that kind of work. So we are proposing that over the next year or so, we get a professional and get out there and put together a more specific year-by-year detailed plan on tree management for the entire H. Smith Richardson golf course. And as I said in the last bullet there, it's not urgent, but it's something we think needs to be done first and immediately following the cart path investment. So bunkers, there are no current issues with the bunkers. Last major rebuilds 9 years ago, and a typical bunker life is 8 to 10 years. So what we will continue to do is we will continue to monitor the condition of the bunkers. And as you know, the way this plan works, we're asking specifically for funding for the first year, but the year each year after that, we will come forward and say, here's what this year's program looks like. And part of that will be to determine which of the bunkers are now ones that are becoming problematic. Problematic from the standpoint of no drainage, problematic from the standpoint of the sand and everything in there is compacted and should be removed and replaced with more with newer sand. So we can't say to you today, we're going to replace these bunkers, these bunkers, these bunkers. But what we're saying to you is we're going to monitor it, and we will come forward after year one with recommendations on which bunkers we believe are the ones that would need to be upgraded or replaced.
And who does that work, the replacement?
That's basically done by Peter Grace and his staff, and that's
internal then. That's
internal, and that's a skill set we have that we can do on our own.
So it's really
have been doing.
So the costs are sand and whatever, you know, do they need to rent equipment or?
Well, I misspoke. If we get to where we're rebuilding bunkers, you know, for $20,000 to $25,000 a bunker, Peter's staff does not have the time or the equipment to do it. And what we did with the previous plan is we did hire outside resources.
Okay.
And he came in and he had his own equipment and he did all the work and rebuilt all the bunkers. Peter's guys are maintenance guys. They're not necessarily.
Right. So when you said they do it, they monitor it, and do they design them too? Or?
Well, there's not a lot to design.
You're just building you're just restoring
bunkers.
Okay.
But they will say, okay, this bunker is not draining quickly, or this bunker is beginning to compact. You know, the dirt works its way up underneath and gets into sand and then it compacts and all that. So they have the skill set in order to say, here's a bunker that's in trouble or could be that we should consider rebuilding. But they don't necessarily have the skill set or the equipment or the time to actually do the rebuild. So part of our program is we will come forward year by year from the standpoint of bunkers with which ones we recommend be addressed, if any. I mean, if they continue to be in good shape and we continue to not have a problem, then the bunkers won't be on the list, but the trees and other things will be. The other projects, as I said, replacing the existing building at the driving range is $100,000. The restroom facility at the turn at Smith is $75,000, and the two lighting systems are a total of $75,000. So this is the layout of the 10-year plan.
Can I ask you the lightning system? What is that? Like a siren system? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's an automated system that detects when you are when your area is under threat of the possibility of lightning, and then it puts off a siren.
So we have nothing now?
No, we have a couple of guys up there who look at the weather forecast.
Right, and they'll drive around warning people, or do we have even?
No, we have a siren.
We do.
Oh yeah, and they'll put off the siren.
Okay.
But it's a matter of, you know, we're relying on a couple of people watching the weather forecast on TV or on their phone to make a judgment call.
Okay, so this is not putting in sirens. This is putting in software or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Detection system. Okay. And then the restroom facility is at the end of the clubhouse, so there's no issue with running water or anything like that. It's all there.
No, the estimate there includes running water and also running it out to the current septic system for the clubhouse and restaurant.
So that's connecting it to the right. But if it's attached to the clubhouse,
no, it's not necessarily attached. I wish I had taken a picture of that. There's enough room between the 10th, behind the 10th tee box in the parking lot and the end of the building, and what the hell's over there? The 9th green. There are areas of where you could build a small concrete and brick structure.
You'd have to dig trenches to connect to
it. Doesn't have to attach to the run. In fact, it probably shouldn't.
Right.
I would say it should be separate and out of the way.
So standalone.
Right around the end of the building now.
Okay.
So this is a layout over time. So in year one, we're saying $500,000 for the cart path. In year two, we split it up and we've got some tree work and some bunker work. And this is what I was saying to you, the trees in the bunkers don't have a startup cost like the cart paths. So we can play with these over time based on the condition of the bunker and based on the recommendations of the agronomist for the tree work. So year 2, we're doing tree work. Year 3, we're doing some bunkers, some tree work, and one of the lighting systems, the $40,000 at Smith. Then year 4, we do some trees and some bunkers, et cetera. So throughout the rest of the plan, we're going back and forth between trees and bunkers because they're individual one-off small projects, and they're a matter of either from our consultant work on the trees or from our maintenance staff observation on the bunkers, recommending which ones need to be done.
So like for the trees, I guess you've let it go for a while, so now there's a lot of trees, or
Let it go too long already.
right? So do you get to a point at the end of this where this becomes an annual walkthrough cut thing? Okay.
Yeah, I guess you could look at this and say this is catch up, because we haven't been able to keep up with the tree work. We couldn't do what they recommended in 2021 when the USDA was out, and so we need to do a lot of work to get the course back to where it should be. Then there would be an ongoing maintenance project that I think could be handled within the maintenance crew after you've already addressed the issue and corrected the course. So that's our schedule. This is an analysis of the finances. And I will confess, Craig Curley helped me put this together, but we assumed funding of 4.75%, which I think is a little above what you guys might be looking at. But it adds a debt burden of somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 a year every other year. And as it says down in the bottom, with minor increases in the in the rates for the greens fees, we can readily cover the kind of debt burden that this adds to the P&L for the golf course. Now, let me give you a benchmark. Monday night, the Golf Commission met, and we addressed the rates for 2025. And my recollection from your capital plan workshop that you were assuming a year-over-year cost escalation for the town of something like 2.62%. That's $58,000 for the golf course. The rate increases we did last Monday night are more than double that. So we already are in, and we can do that because the latent demand on this golf course is tremendous. We estimate that for every tee time we grant, 2 of them are turned away.
Just let me say, that wasn't an estimate. We just took the last 10 years and took an average. Yeah.
Whatever. It just gave me a reference point.
Yeah.
To give you a reference. The kind of increases we did last Monday night, I'm confident with any reasonable assumption of escalation on the $2.3 million combined costs, more than cover the increases and begin to eat in or contribute to the kind of debt service that we would add if we implemented this full program. So here's what we're doing. As we set our objective early on, we want to preserve and increase the golf course revenues and continue to have the revenues exceed expenses. Keep the golf course to a benchmark standard of play. By making $1.5 million investment over 10 years in cart paths, bunkers, and in tree management. We believe that the very strong latent demand for the rounds allows for rate increases that will comfortably cover the debt associated with this plan. And we thank you for your time, attention, and support of golf courses and operations.
Thank you so much for your hard work. Peter or Anthony, would you like to add anything?
Well done, Mike.
Well done, yeah.
I'll just say that, first of all, a lot of hard work by Mike and his committees with Anthony's support.
That you, Bob and Lori.
And Lori Montizello.
Thank you for going for that last name. But I just want to say, we're obviously here to ask the town to support investing into the golf course and supporting our this plan. And really, in my view, it's to elevate the golfing experience for Fairfield residents and non-residents. And I use the word elevate versus maintain, because I think we've had, we're beginning to see a degradation in that experience from, a lack of investment in people, property, equipment, or plant and equipment. That is beginning to, the public is beginning to feel that a little bit, that there's some, the cart paths are more than tired. The things that I won't go over everything, but things that Mike pointed out that are starting to impact the course are starting to impact the experience of the golfer. And, right now, we can't fit any more people on Smith. 50,000 rounds that's about max, probably more than max, to be honest with you.
It is.
It would be great if there was 45 or 40, so there'd be more time to maintain the course. Give the maintenance crew more time to maintain the course. But, I think our concern is that 50,000 starts to sort of peter out, starts to drop. There's competition out there. Tasha's sounds like they're going to be doing a big investment over there. And there's competition out there. There's competition from other towns, municipal golf courses. There's obviously private golf courses where there's competition. And we think, I think the investment in this is well worth it, and it'll kind of revitalize the golf course for decades to come. I mean, just doing the golf cart paths will really elevate the experience. I mean, when you have nice paths around there, people are driving around, it just feels better. Right now, it's a mess, and it's you should have 4-wheel drive up there in some places, and it's a safety concern. People are driving on things, they're bouncing around. You get off, you're on uneven ground, and we have a lot of seniors out there, and that's an issue. So anyway, I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope we get the support from the town bodies that we think will help this revenue generating positive cash flow entity for the town.
Thank you. I mean, Anthony, anything you want to?
No.
So I kind of feel like most of this is maintenance, right? Like, I mean, you have to have a functioning, you got, rebuilding your paths is like it's not a nice to have, it should be.
That we run into, and Anthony's gonna shoot me later for my saying this, but
he will. Sorry, it's not fun.
We've been down a mechanic for 3 years, and we have very specialized equipment to maintain a golf course. We believe our maintenance staff of 3 full-time people is low. And so what we encountered as a subcommittee is the question, what is maintenance and what is capital? And basically what we ended up with, Bill, is with the kind of resources that we have now, we looked at what we thought could be done, and everything we thought that was needed that couldn't be done, we chose to call capital and bundle it up in this plan.
Yeah, so that's sort of the terminology, I think, like I would say in like the way we'd like to get to with the town with roads, you pave every year, you're not bonding it, and that's it's something you need to do every year, and I feel like the only reason that we're considering this capital is because nothing's been done with the cart paths for a long time, so it's one big replacement, but you have to do it. It's really sorry. Who's that?
That's the Board of Finance meeting.
Oh, sorry. So but the cart paths, the tree management, the rebuilding of the bunkers, and I would add the lightning detectors, which it sounds like it should get done, like for a safety reason. Those things feel like they're not controversial. They're not asking for anything new. The town, in terms of the experience, the town did invest in the new clubhouse. So, I think the experience should be considered better now than it was, but on the course itself, this is basic blocking and tackling for the most part, right? The real adds, the enhancements to what, are the new building at the driving range, which I believe there may be some plans to be able to get some revenue out of that as well. Yeah, in terms of services, like food or beverages or something.
Early on in that, but yeah.
Yeah, so really, the one that may not add to revenue but will enhance experience is being able to go to the bathroom at the 9th hole. That would be nice. So that seems like the one, thing that is a little bit different, but everything else kind of feels like it's just basic. I don't know, Anthony, do you?
It's like deferred maintenance.
Yeah, like deferred maintenance, because if you did it you could do it every year as part of your operating budget, some of this stuff. Yeah.
And some of it we do. I would say the stuff that's being done is more reactive than proactive, and I think this takes a more proactive look at the entire operations of the course.
Okay.
I mean, Peter Grace and his crew, to keep this course in the condition it's in with 50,000 rounds is nothing short of a miracle. I mean, they have done incredible good work, but it's just too much.
Right, and you're raising the rates, and I know you'll get questions from the Board of Finance about, well, if you're getting that many rounds, should you raise the rates even more? But you're gonna get this pushback from a lot of people that it is a public golf course and we want our people to be able to play golf. And so it's great that the rounds are high, but we don't want to price most of the public out of it. So I mean that'll be I'll let them ask that question.
I mean, I didn't want to get into the process for last Monday night's look at the rates because it's kind of outside the scope of this. But fundamentally, every year, the Golf Commission puts together an array of rates at all the surrounding potentially competitive golf course. So that becomes a reference point for us to use. And then what we did this year is we took a look and said, okay, if we need to raise a certain amount of money, and we sort of set ourselves a bogey of $150,000, where are there opportunities within those competitive rates to add some more? For example, we haven't raised the rates on cart rental for 2 years. So we got a year of catch up. So we're gonna go up $2, $48,000. So we're very conscious of the competitive environment and try to go as aggressively as we can within the context of that environment.
I would say also, we're not here to maximize revenue also. We could charge $100 and get rounds to 30,000 and make a lot more money.
It's a public course.
You're pushing, a lot of people out of the thing. So
now there are a lot of people that do ask, well, if we're, outside Fairfield rounds have gone up a lot, why don't you raise those rates more? But I think it seems like you have to be competitive because you don't want to lose all those rounds. So are you okay with the balance between?
Actually, what's happening, part of the reason why the revenue hasn't grown as much as we would like, the ratio of non-resident to resident rounds 4 or 5 years ago was about 2 to 1. Now it's about 4 to 1. More resident rounds, fewer non-residents.
So you play more resident rounds to make up for that lost revenue.
Well, it didn't necessarily make up for the lost revenue. The revenue was flatter and didn't grow quite like we would have hoped otherwise. But that isn't a problem you can fix just by changing the rates between the residents.
It may not be considered a problem if your goal is for residents to
raise the resident rates more and raise the carts and things like that and rebuild the driving range, and that makes up for an awful lot of that.
Okay. Christine. Christine, did we lose you?
Oh, I drove her away.
Well, Christine, you're gonna lose.
Sorry, boy, this.
Well, I mean, I think this was really helpful. Are you going to present to the Board of Finance as well, right? Yeah. So
I am here.
Yeah. Do you have any questions or comments? Because we're going to be hearing this again, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, I thank you for the presentation, and You know, I would at some point like to see some of these things just worked into the operating budget. And in terms of, I do question the bathroom, pushing it out as far. It seems like just a lot of these are health and safety issues. So I defer to the timing that you have, but would be curious to see the state of that bathroom and if it could be done sooner.
Oh, really? On the, you mean the new bathroom at the ninth hole?
Well, yeah, I mean, it just seems, you know, basic, you know, bathroom is pretty basic in terms of comfort. I'm not a golfer, so my experience is somewhat limited. The lighting, that seems like safety. If we could do that sooner, given the price point, I would be supportive of that. And I don't know much about maintenance for bunkers, but the equipment in terms of bringing it in-house, could we purchase the equipment so our maintenance staff could handle that, looking into the future?
We have the equipment to maintain the bunkers, and the maintenance staff could do it if they had the time, or if the staff was large enough to do the work. It's not, the equipment to maintain a bunker is not all that specialized. The equipment to put in cart paths with asphalt and everything is a little bit more specialized.
No, I understand, you know, the investment of doing the car paths, and I agree that doing it all in one fell swoop rather than, you know, each year makes sense. It's more of just sustainability looking forward. If it would be more cost effective to try to build capacity in-house to do some of this work, it just seems like it might make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, getting on a tree maintenance program, you know, putting it out a few years, trees are just going to continue to grow, and it's again a safety issue just for the people that are on the course, and leaves and droppings and added maintenance to just all of the things that go with these branches falling.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
I was listening. I had to go, you know, check.
Thank you, Anthony.
Anthony's late for a date.
No, I think
I'll tell you later.
I've got to get going. I have a family birthday. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Peter. Talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Item 19, refunds tax collector to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $12,982.95. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Any comments from the board, the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
First Selectmen update. I'm just real briefly. We had the first CRC Charter Revision Commission meeting that was held on Monday, October 2021, to elect officers and vote on a meeting schedule. I was not able to make it because there was an RTM meeting that I had to be at. But my understanding is Chris DeWitt was elected chair of that commission and Jane Biagini vice chair. Now this is important, the first public hearing is going to be on Wednesday, November 6th at 7 p.m. It's at the Fire Training Center on Richard White Way. But people can attend remotely as well. And this is where people have an opportunity to weigh in with their requests, their points, you know, issues they have that could be addressed in the charter. I would really highly recommend, though, if anyone is going to listen to this meeting that we're having right now, that it makes a lot of sense to put those in writing and send them to the Charter Revision Commission. And the that address is on the Charter Revision Commission website. Because that way it gets memorialized, it gets put into the meeting backup. Item number 21, announcements. Anything, Christine?
Happy Halloween to all our families. That'll be happening before our next meeting. And for anybody who still has questions about Election Day, check the Register of Voters website. And don't forget to vote.
Don't forget to vote. Great. Item number 22, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you, Prue. Thanks for sticking out, Liz.
1 second, let me just.
All right.
Happy birthday to Jillian.